Good day, everyone. This is Jennifer Hellman, and this is Abstract Illusions Radio. Today we are speaking with Charlie Russell, who has been studying for decades with bears all over the world and having a wonderful realizations of what they're about and their story. And his story is just something that I thought we all could kind of understand better what life is about. So, hello, Charlie. How are you?
Hello, I'm well.
That's great. So I'm just curious, why did you decide to study the bears?
Mainly because many years ago I got to like bears a lot, and I kept seeing them killed for reasons that weren't necessarily true. I mean, for ideas that weren't true. Just like they are today. It's been a long struggle to get to change the way people think about these animals. For instance, people insist that they're unpredictable. They insist also that they are dangerous if they ever lose fear. And because bears want to get along with people, they're quite social with humans. And they need to share our land, and so, but every time they try to do that, they are killed for approaching us or trying to be on our farms or whatever. So, and also, how can you get along with a big, powerful animal like a grizzly bear or even a black bear if they're going to turn on you for no reason, like, if you believe they're unpredictable? I
Right.
didn't think they were.
So with that, wanting to change people's understanding of bear, you went and traveled. How many different places did you? I mean, you were in Russia for decades, weren't you?
I was there for about 12 years altogether.
And did you find that the Russian government or the Russian people were more open to you going into the backwoods and being with bears? I mean, that's the thing that kind of boggles my mind. That was it easy just to go to a foreign country and go among nature?
Well, yeah, two parts to your question.
Yes.
Was it hard to talk the Russians into it? Well, I get in a fluke. I was there for another reason. The Great Bear Foundation of the U.S. sent me there, helped me get there to look at the poaching of the bears after the Soviet Union fell apart. And while I was there, I met a wonderful Russian biologist who I explained to him an idea I had to do a study, and he understood what I needed, and he said, "I know where you can go to do that study," and he helped me get there. Now, not all Russian officials agreed with my study. A lot of them didn't understand what it was, but the important ones did. And with his help, I got there. He even arranged that I could take my aircraft. That I had a small aircraft, and it was very necessary to operate in that area because it was so remote, and so I got permission to take that, which was a terrific boon to my being able to work there. Things like that. But yeah, as far as the wilderness is concerned, I had lots of experience in wilderness and lots of experience with bears previous, and so the wilderness wasn't any problem. It was a beautiful place.
Well, I was reading on your page that while you were over in Russia, you actually rescued a couple cubs and took them back to the wild.
Yeah.
what was going on with the zoo that you thought the animals would be better in the wild?
Well,
I agree with you. They do deserve to be in the wild, but I'm just curious.
yeah, well, yeah, these animals, I don't like zoos, and I especially don't like Russian zoos. These cubs were orphaned by poachers. Their mothers were shot, or hunters, because the Russians were bringing American and Canadian and European hunters there after after perestroika, after the Soviet Union came apart. When they were starting up their market economy, one of the big attractions were their bears, and these outfitters were killing the bears, and in the process there was orphaning of cubs, because they would kill females with young cubs. They would go to the zoo. Well, the zoo was so primitive that it didn't have a cage. It didn't even, or any kind of a mold, or to keep people away from the cages. So there was this little cage that kids could walk up and reach right inside and pet the cubs. This was fine when they were very small, but as they got older, the cubs could start hurting people, because people were teasing them. They didn't like, so they would just kill the cubs when they got to a certain age and wait till the next year when they get more small ones. I heard about this and asked questions. At first they lied to me about what they did with the cubs. They said they'd ship them to other zoos. Well, I found out that wasn't true. Other zoos were overloaded with bear cubs because there were so many orphans. So I would buy them from the zoo and take them to this very remote place where I could protect them while they were small and feed them, and then as they became independent, just allow that, and it was a beautiful situation, because I was there for many years, so I could watch them grow up as they and they were very valuable for my study.
And did you retrain the bears on the cubs how to be in the wild, to be self-supporting?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand that question. Did I? What was the last part?
I was just saying, if you taught the bears how to be self-sufficient, so they can hunt on their own, take care of themselves out in the wild, when you took them back to the wild.
Yes. The biggest problem, there were two problems. One was that they needed protection from other bears, because there were so many other bears there. I chose a place. I needed a place to do this study where there were many bears, because where I lived, there were grizzly bears. They were, you didn't have very many encounters with them. So I wanted a place where I could have encounters with bears all the time, so I could learn from those encounters with the bears. But there's certain male bears that become predators to young cubs, and they eat young cubs. So I had to protect those cubs from these particular. There wasn't many of them, but there was enough of them that I had to be very vigilant and watch. Not continuously, but if one was in the area, I had to be careful not to lose the cubs to those bears. I had to feed them as well. In North America, until just a few years ago, it was illegal to rescue and rehabilitate grizzly cubs in the wild, grizzly cubs, because it was considered, because they had to be fed, that they would become dangerous or be dangerous for the rest of their lives. It was an understanding around animals being fed. So I had to figure out how to do this so that they weren't dangerous. It was pretty simple, actually. And now grizzly bears are being reintroduced back into the wild here in Canada, in British Columbia. And there's people doing it. It has official sanction from the government, and everything is working beautifully. I think they were working on their 8th and 9th bears back into the wild.
That's awesome. And if you could speak up just a little bit louder, Charlie. Some people are saying you're a little low.
Gosh, you're breaking up for some reason, and so can you please say that again?
I'm just asking you to speak a little louder when you're talking.
Okay.
Okay. So
it's a break up on the line. So we're just
okay.
Hearing okay now. Okay, go ahead.
So with the experiences you've had with the bears, animals tend to be humorous, we're all animals in that sense. But did you find the bears really amusing at times at what they were doing and how they were acting and interacting with you? Do you feel like could you find the different personalities within the?
Yeah, they're amazing animals. But we've become disconnected from the animal world. We know our dogs pretty well, but we often think animals are of inferior intelligence, that they don't have emotions, even though we can see emotions in our dog and cats, and not so much cats but in dogs. But we kind of don't understand how similar they are to ourselves, and so they do have individual personalities, and some I noticed were not very friendly at first, or they are really independent. Others were very careful around humans. The females were very attentive. For instance, they would listen to me. They would understand my concerns around protecting them. So if I saw danger, I could tell my bears quite quickly. But I noticed that male cubs, maybe this is similar to humans. The males were always kind of goofing off and playing by themselves, and when I alerted them, they would often not pay attention to me. Things like that. Other cubs some were very tactile, some were very affectionate. They all varied a lot in their personality.
Did you have a tendency to name them so you know who was who?
Again, I'm having a breakup problem in your voice. What was that again?
Okay. I was wondering if you named the different bears so you knew who was who?
Did they know? Did they know me? Different bears? Could I tell them apart? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Oh yes, they're quite different. I had trouble sometimes telling apart 1 year. If from year to year, a young cub, they denned on their own. Like they would find a den in the fall by themselves, and go into hibernation, and I wouldn't see them for 7 months, or 6 or 7 months, which is a remarkable thing when you think of it. A cub less than 1 year old would go into their, they would leave in a storm usually, and find a place to den up. They would dig one and into the ground, and I wouldn't see them for a very long time. And yeah, it was amazing that they would know me the next spring. They recognized me, and it was like I hadn't been away for more than a few days. They were very glad to see, and they would have the same habits. But if I missed seeing them for a while in the spring, I had a hard time understanding who was who because they changed so much.
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah.
So with the experience of them, kind of, what did you learn from the bears that affected you personally?
Well, we're taught, even in environmental circles, we're taught that we're not really a part of nature. People I can remember right from childhood, people tend to talk like we don't really belong in nature. We're different. Again, it's this idea. We have an overrated idea of ourselves. I guess we're above nature almost. I was a rancher for years. We're struggling with nature, trying to overcome nature in lots of ways, and so we don't understand that we definitely are a part of nature, because really, what are you if you're not a part of nature? And my cubs, my bears, taught me this. They taught me that I was a part of nature, and all I really had to figure out was whether I was going to be a positive part or a negative part. Most of us tend to be negative part of nature. We're ripping and tearing at the world one way or another, and extracting things beyond sustainability and all this stuff. So humans tend to be pretty hard on nature, but we are, no matter what we do, we're really a part of it. We just have to figure out how to be a good part of it, and that's what I think the most important thing I learned being with these animals for all those years.
For me, I actually did a shamanic studies. So for me, nature was one of my teachers in finding who I truly am. So I have a deep respect for animals and for nature, and I wholeheartedly agree that we are part of nature, and it has really lessons on how to balance our life and live within the balance of what's available. I've had some amazing experiences with a lot of different animals in nature, that to hold a hummingbird who just sat there. It was an amazing experience. Or a lizard that I saved from a pool that I thought he was going to drown, and he just sat on me.
Yeah.
And was very friendly. So it's just like I have a deep appreciation for, we're in this together. We might as well balance the living understandings between each other, because we're really here. For me, I learn more from nature than from man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you obviously had the experiences that I've had, and I can see why you wanted to interview me. Yeah, it's we tend to. I guess it's around bears anyway. We tend to be afraid too much, and I think we just have lost connection with nature. We should. I tell people we should, for an hour every day, you should go out into a nice place where you can connect, whether it's on the seashore and listen to the wind and the waves, or by a big tree, or with an animal, where you can really connect, because we've lost connection. We've forgotten so much that the animals still have. We're too busy with our cell phones now and all our gadgets for many years. We're too occupied. We don't connect, and when we don't understand these things, we don't look after them. So yeah, it's pretty hard to conserve something that you don't love, and it's pretty hard to love something that you don't understand. And that's what was what I went to, because that's why I went to do this study, because I figure we really didn't understand these animals, and we needed to, because we killed them so readily for no reason, it seemed to me. I needed to try to show people a different way. And the images of my work are of me very, with bears all around me, and people think that is foolish. I think we've got this idea that close, especially with bears, close is bad, and distance is good. Well, that doesn't necessarily have to be. They are dangerous, but I think that we make them dangerous ourselves by our misunderstanding. Our misunderstanding often means that we treat them badly. Bear managers, managers who are hired to look after people and bears, for instance, they think that bears have to be afraid, and that people have to be afraid. So you get handouts at park entrances about, bears are very dangerous, stay away, they're unpredictable, or all this stuff. And then if a bear comes down and eats dandelions by the roadside, they shoot the bear with rubber bullets to try to get them to move away, try to keep them. So the only way they can feel like they can have safety around these animals is to have bears afraid of people and people afraid of bears. And the process of keeping bears afraid of people makes these bears dangerous. And that's why I wanted to do my study, to show people that these animals will trust you, they can trust you, and if they do trust you, they're absolutely wonderful to be around.
So what do you suggest? I mean, I think a lot of damage has been done to bears in trusting man. Do you think that can be reversed if humans are educated on the truth of what bears are like?
Well, I think you and I both wouldn't be doing this.
Well, that's true.
That was possible. We always hope that we can change people. It all depends. How if we can be successful in educating people. With all my years of study, I'm sure that it's not a problem with the bears. It's a problem with us. And so if we can't change, then then the problem just continues, and it's very serious for the bears because we have guns, and it's not very expensive to kill a bear just because it's close to a school, for instance.
Right.
That's
It doesn't take much of an excuse to use it.
no. There's a rule that most fish and wildlife, if a bear comes close to a school, that's automatic death for the bear. Well, that feels like them killing my children with the wrong idea that my children are going to kill their children. It's just a stupid idea. But if you keep being mean to these animals, then someday they do hurt people. But there's so few examples of bears hurting children. They seem to understand that children are... I don't know why bears don't hurt people more often, but they don't. But a few of them do, and I think it's because the history of that animal they have nothing but bad experiences with people. So,
right.
So when, especially with grizzly bears, with females, with young cubs, these cubs, they want to protect their cubs, and so if they are surprised on a trail close by, they might decide to hurt the person that surprised them to protect their cubs.
Their cub, yeah.
And so it's but in my experience, it was more than my cubs that I rescued. I had bears all around, these wild bears all around. Some of these bears would watch me and figure out that I was trustworthy. They'd bring their cubs to me to babysit. They would, they would completely reverse the thing. They would take advantage of me. They wouldn't do that with any other bear or anything. So
they're very human. I mean, bears really have, all animals are another reflection of humans. And it's, for me, if we just realized that they are a reflection of who we are as well, and we find that balance of understanding they're just like us, trying to survive, then I think nature would be totally different.
I think you're very right on that. So we got a big job.
Yes, we do. And I have a passion to do it. That's why I asked you to be on, because I wanted to have an expert who actually has done it and experienced it. It's just like when you hear a dog attack, its owner or something. It's like, okay, what did the owner do? I always go, I'm sorry, but it's not a bad dog. It's a bad owner that causes the bite. I mean, I've been bit by my own dogs because I got in the middle of a dog fight. That was my stupidity. And I take full responsibility. I mean, I had a dog bite me and they said, well, you're going to put him down, right? And I'm going, no, it was my mistake. I'm not going to punish the dog for my error. And treating him, it's like he was cut. I was trying to help him and I pet him the wrong way and it hurt and he reacted. I'm sorry. That was my boo-boo.
Yeah, that's right. I was attacked by a bear, a black bear on my ranch one time, and it was the same thing. I made a mistake. I was being belligerent. It was a very rainy day, and I was walking on a trail, and there was this fairly small bear, a female, and I just tried to, because it was raining and I was miserable, and I just thought, well, just shoo it off the trail, and she took exception of that and hurt me a bit, not too badly, but it was a silly thing that I did, and not the bear's fault. It was what I did.
So most of the maulings that you hear about bears, you think it's something that the person who got involved, or like you just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, both in a bad mood, and the person lost. Do you think that's what a lot of...
No, I don't think most of them are like that. I think most of them, the people are quite innocent.
Okay.
It's the history that bear experienced with other people.
Okay.
Mostly bear managers are the ones that treat them rough. I have a message for those people that isn't very welcome. They don't like it, and that you're afraid of litigation. You're afraid of being sued because you're inviting people to your park to see to enjoy your park, and then you make you make the bears dangerous. So why would you do that if you're afraid to be sued? And boy, they'd hate that question. They're doing it because they're so afraid themselves of these animals. They do not think that it's possible to trust them with their tourists, and so they want to keep them away from people and the people away from there. So they're creating the danger, I think, and then an innocent piece, especially around female grizzly bears with cubs, because the bears are so protective.
Exactly.
Those bears they're protective because they don't, in case of humans, because they don't like humans. But you see, usually it's quite innocent on the tourist's case, part, because they don't know what's gone on with all these bears. They don't understand. All they know is that there's a big campaign, big advertising thing, come and enjoy our parks, but then when they do, they get hurt by it. Not very often. I'm talking of very rare instances. We make a big fuss about it when it happens, because, but it doesn't happen very often. But when it does happen, I'm sure that it's because of a long history of bad treatment, or they don't like people, because
right.
they've had so much abuse from them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the backwoods of the White Mountains in Arizona, and my mistake, I left my cooler out, so a bear wandered in. It was interesting, the claw marks on that cooler, but he didn't touch. He smelled the tent, but that was it, and moseyed on. It's like, oh, they're in there, I'm going to leave them alone. But it was just a little frightening because it's like, they're big. But otherwise, he left me alone, I left him alone. My dog went wandering around, but came right to me as soon as I called. But it was an interesting experience of knowing something that powerful is there. And it is because of the programming we get since a very young age. It's wild. It has to be dangerous. And it's it can be so much the opposite, of understanding that they're scared of us as much as we're scared of them. And it's because of what we've done to them. We've made ourselves a big bad wolf in a way. But it's interesting. And I do hope people do get a clue of the importance of animals, in the world. We need them as much as anything, more than oil, more than anything. We need to keep the balance in nature for our own survival.
Yeah.
And I just really have a passion to make people understand that, we need to reevaluate how we are treating animals of all kinds and have a more deeper respect, because a lot of time we're encroaching on their area. They have every reason to be a little upset if we're taking over their land.
Yeah, that's true, but it could be our area. We are we are just coexisting.
Exactly.
Rather than saying, okay, this is your area over here and this is my area. You see, so we don't have to feel like intruders just because we intrude into bear country. If we have good manners, then there's nothing to worry about. So, yeah, my struggle all my life is because I was the rancher of the family. I have two scientist brothers. Both of them have worked with bears. One of them was for most of his professional career, a bear biologist, and I was the rancher. And so, ranchers up in my country in Alberta, and I know in Montana and lots of places, ranchers where the reason that where we live on big pieces of land, there's lots of room for bears, but we don't let them be there. And we were the cause of why there's much of both countries, Canada and the U.S., the bears have been eliminated from them because of these big ranches that won't allow bears there. And so, so that's why I got interested in seeing if it was possible to share my land with them. And so I live right next to a national park, actually very close to Glacier National Park, Montana, because I live right down in the southwest corner of Alberta, which is, my house is 12 miles from Montana and in Glacier Park. So there's lots of bears. And I wanted to see what would happen if I just let them be there, make them feel comfortable, see how many cows they would kill. And it turned out that in 18 years when I was ranching, I never lost a cow. And I had lots of them, like 300 cows. So I know they do occasionally kill cows, and if they get started, they can be quite a problem. But they didn't get started on my cows. They did once in a while. My neighbors would lose one or two, but it wasn't a huge problem. And they could be removed quite easily. The problem is finding a place where there's not other cows that they can kill.
Right. So what is the answer to you to help people understand that we can coexist together and to kind of like take down the fences and allow them to be? What do you think is the best way of, other than through example, which you're doing, do you want new programs to be set up to really show that this can happen and have that process grow?
The biggest problem is getting rid of our unnecessary fear. These animals are feared mostly because it's around a hunting culture that is being started a long time ago. We've hunted these animals a long time. We eliminated them from places like California, and Nevada, and Arizona, and Colorado, and Idaho. They're coming back into Idaho, but we've eliminated them. And so we have to overcome this fear we have of them, and that's quite difficult. This hunting culture, people can't feel, if we're hunting these animals like bears, or not, if we hunt bears, and people know them like I know them, then how could you possibly kill them and feel good about yourself? Because they're so beautiful. They're so not only beautiful, but they're so possibly they can be so understanding and so friendly and so neighborly. So how could you kill an animal like that and feel good about it? Well, the way they do it is the way they talk about it. Oh, these animals are terribly ferocious, horrible animals, really, because they're so dangerous, and so that's the talk that goes, and then you can turn yourself into a hero for killing them.
Right.
But the problem is that you have to create this rhetoric, this talk of bad stories. Oh, so dangerous. We saw a bear up there, and it's dangerous. Even when you're not hunting them, they talk about every sighting they have is around danger. And this has been going on for hundreds of years. And so it's built into our genes almost, the fear. So it's the best way to start would be to get rid of that kind of culture. Stop hunting them. But that's a big problem because managers now feel that that's the way they have to control the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we can live with an awful lot more bears than we have, but they know they've got a set figure. Oh, if the population reaches this amount, then we have to open the hunting season.
Right.
And then off we go again on the hunting talk. We can't tell nice stories about them if we're hunting them. We can only tell nice stories if we don't hunt them, because of
Right.
this hero stuff. And when I was a kid, there was no nice stories about bears. I think I was in my 20s before I ever heard somebody tell a good story about a bear. I mean, a story that didn't include all this danger, didn't, looked at the animal from the way it really was, rather than this fictitious animal that we've created because to feel good about hunting them.
And you think that right now you're doing a little bit of traveling and doing talks to make people more aware of these talks. In fact, you have a talk tonight.
Yes, I do.
In Vancouver. Is it northern or southern Vancouver? Or am I totally off?
North Vancouver.
Okay. And you have information on your website, which is charlierussellsbears.com.
That's right.
And you have amazing stories and insights on the bears, and I was so fascinated by all the information and all the experiences. So if somebody comes across a bear, how should they act?
Well, that's a good question. If you're on a trail in a park, say, and you come on the bear coming towards you, he's using the trail, but he's traveling in the opposite direction that you are. He's, say, coming along the trail going north, and you're going south, for instance. Chances are that bear is doing something more important than you are, because most people that are on bear trails are out getting their exercise, and it's not really important. The bear is trying to get fat for the next winter. He has to sleep for 6 months because there's no food during those 6 months for him. So it's a wonderful, amazing way that they've evolved that trick of being able to sleep for 6 months without eating. And so he only has 6 months to get fat. So he's using that trail, going from one food source to another, probably. And you're maybe trying to wear off a pound or two. So, okay, so you're both doing something. Why not just get out of the way? Step off the trail, let the bear go by. You're not interfering with what he's doing that way. He can continue what he's doing, and you can continue what you're doing. It's so simple, but it's not as simple if the bear doesn't like you. So then that's when it gets complicated. So that's why I keep saying, don't aggravate these animals so that we can live with them nicely. You see what I mean? So most of the time when you ask that question, what you just asked, what do you do when you meet a bear? Oh, they say, well, go back, don't run because that might invoke a bear to run after you. But go back on your trail. Well, that doesn't get you out of the way. And in some cases, you might have to go back a ways so that you find a place that you can allow the bear to pass. But most of the cases, you just have to get off the trail. The bears that I was with in Russia, sometimes I only had to get off the trail 2 feet. They would go by me 2 feet away because they trusted me and I trusted them. See, so it's complicated only because of our attitude. We've got to change our attitude and all that. So,
yeah. And that's exactly it. It is the attitude of man against beast, and it really isn't. So I agree. So basically, if you are able, should you go? It's like part of me goes, okay, you get off the trail, and I understand that. Is it best for him to see exactly where you are off the trail, or do you go behind a bush or go behind a tree? I'm just curious.
I don't go behind a tree, but there's one thing we haven't talked about. I always carry bear spray. It's there's quite a few varieties of it, but I use one because I trust that one. But anyway, I carry this bear spray. It's developed as a way to protect yourself, and I think it's a good idea because who knows what that bear's history is. So that's a really good tool in case something goes wrong. But in the case what we're just talking about, a normal situation, you just go off the side. You don't have to get behind a tree. You just go off the side. You can talk to the bear because they pick up a lot from your voice. They understand from your voice whether you're aggressive or whether you're caring. You can.
Right.
And women's voices are really very soothing to them. I studied that, and with my assistants that I had, they seem to really like to listen to female voices. So voice is a very good tool to work with when you're around animals, not just bears, but other animals too. They don't necessarily have to understand your words. They just need to hear the tone of your voice, and they can sense your fear. They haven't lost their connections with these things, and so they can sense many things from you.
And that's a great idea. Where can you find this bear? Just at supply places for like camping and stuff? Can you find the bear spray?
Yes, I would. I'm sure it's up in our country anyway. It's in every outdoor store. Yeah, and there's several varieties of it. Lots of it's been developed very effectively. I've used it 4 times, but never to protect myself, only to protect my cubs from these predator bears, and it works very, very well.
And what exactly does it do? I'm curious.
It's very strong pepper, and it's oleocapsicum. So it's very strong, and it doesn't take much in air. Sometimes it drifts back and you cough, and it's not very pleasant, but not very often. I've never really had. I've had a few accidents with it. I sprayed my hiking partner one time accidentally because the clip came off, but now they got the clips better. I sprayed it just on his back of his legs and things like that. But it's very powerful, and it really stops a bear.
Okay, so when you spray it, do you spray their face or their paws or just really in their general direction?
You can see the spray, so you just put a spray out there and let the bear run into it, and they veer off to the side. It doesn't hurt them. There's no damage from it. And I'm breathing at you, cough. I guess if you had emphysema or something, it would bother you. But bears aren't bothered by it. I mean, they're bothered by it, but they're not damaged by it.
That's good, and that's really good to know about this. So, what time is your talk tonight, Charlie?
It's at 7 o'clock, I think.
7 o'clock? Okay. And do you know the location of that talk?
It's on the website. It's a complicated name. It's a chief something. But go to my website, charlierussellbears.ca, and it'll be there.
Okay. So, with that, Charlie, we have come to the end of the hour. I thank you for all your advice and all your work in educating us on the bears and living with nature instead of kind of like against it. What a concept, actually living with nature. And I really thank you for coming on. It really is an honor to meet you and speak with you. I hope you have a great talk, and hopefully we can make a difference with animals and get people to really understand that they're with us, not against us.
And I need your help to keep doing what you're doing, and I really appreciate you interviewing me.
Well, thank you. Many blessings to you, sir.
Okay. Don't go away, Charlie.
With that, I'm going to say thank you very much for listening to Abstract Illusions Radio here on wolfspiritradio.com. If you like this conversation, we really appreciate your donations and you listening in. I really like seeing people in the chat room and having you guys there. I can feel your presence. Anyway, with that, this is Jennifer Hellman saying, have a beautiful week. Thank you for being you, and keep it real, be true, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.